Vasudevaya.
Om
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nashprayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakta Bhavati Nashtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. This is working. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णकृष्णाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमपदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नमने गौतुसे नमः वञ्चकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी विश्वभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. The camera feed is looking a little strange today. You can take a look into it. All right. So, Canto 4, Chapter 14, the story of King Vena. And the story begins with Anga, the father of Vena, the descendant of great Dhruva Maharaj. He left the kingdom being frustrated by Vena's activity. Vena was his only son. He tried correcting him, but Vena will not improve. After failing in all his attempts to rectify him, Anga got frustrated. He left the kingdom, pursuing the higher purpose. Tasyeva hetu prayate tako vidum na labhyate yad brahmatam apariyadam. What should be the goal of life? Narad Muni says, goal of life should be that which cannot be attained while traveling from the Brahma Loka to the Patal Loka, which means it should be something beyond this creation. So aiming for that, Tasyeva Hetu Prayate Takovidu, aiming for the higher purpose, Anga have done everything as a king, what he was supposed to do, leaving rest for Lord to take care and for the sadhus to take care, he left. And chapter 1 begins with, then the Brahmana saw, in the absence of the king, the rogues have become powerful, and because of which Praja is getting disturbed. To control the rogues or the thieves, and then they thought, let's have Vena as the king. Hopefully, after becoming the king, he'll become responsible, but it didn't happen like that. Yes, when he became the king, the thieves and rogues ran away from the kingdom because now the bigger thief is sitting on the throne. So they were terrified. They knew that if he catches us, he is very brutal. He will torture us like anything. So they ran away. For a second, kingdom became peaceful, but now the tantrum of King Vena began. So power corrupts, as the saying goes. So when you get power, it really gets into the head. We have many cases in the history like that, and one of the classic cases of a very, very saintly and pious king who was not agreeing to the proposal of becoming Indra, yet he was coaxed into taking the role of Indra by the Devatas, by Brahaspati. When he became, I'm talking King Nahusa, eventually he also got corrupted. So it's very, very tricky thing. It's catch 22. So you become a leader to serve, but when you become a leader, you get certain privileges, and at least in those days, people used to sing songs of praises and whatnot, And plus, when you become the king, you also get certain kind of a powers. Just like here, when King Vena became a king, he had the 8 mystic perfections with him. You know, today the privilege could be you may get one dedicated room, maybe one laptop, or maybe one car. These are privileges in Kali Yuga, you may get it. But in those days, the privileges were far greater, and that will get into that. Not privileges, particularly the praise and the obedience of the subjects. Everyone had to follow the king. King was the authority that way. Of course, the culture was the king had to act under the guidance of the Brahmanas, where yet king can become autocratic. In this case of Vena, we are seeing that. So then the sadhus Brahmanas thought, "Arey, we have created a bigger problem. Let's go and advise King Vena." So they went to Vena, thinking that let's give him a chance to rectify himself, and they told him 3 things precisely. Anyone remembers what are the instructions of Brahmanas to the King Vena? 1, 2, 3. 3 things. What did Brahmanas told to Vena what he should do as a leader? Therefore, note making is helpful. So in Kali Yuga, we can look back into our notes and see what had happened. First thing, follow dharma. It will be good for you. Otherwise, you'll found on. Second, the goal of the king and the goal of praja, everything is to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the leader has to ensure everyone is engaged according to their varna and ashrama. So the varna ashrama should follow, everyone should be properly engaged. And the third, if the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased, what is that? Some Shuddhir Haritoshanam. If the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased, then all the Devatas will be pleased, which means there will be a cooperation between you and the Devatas. In other words, your kingdom will be flourishing. These are the 3 things which were told. Okay, so let's now continue with text number 22. This is the last thing which I just summarized, which has been spoken. 23rd actually. So now the Vena will begin to respond. Text number 23. Vena vacha Balishabata yuyam va Adharme dharmamaninaha. They all can check it on their mobile while we're doing this. It's not needed only. Get it off. You focus on your basic setup. Everyone have their mobile, they can pull it out. Balishabata yuyam va Adharme dharmamaninaha Ye vritidam patam hitva Jaram patim upasate. Now, Veda, how would he reply? Okay, before I get into it, let me ask a question to all of you. What do you think about it? So here Brahmanas went and gave an advice. It was a kind of unsolicited advice. Vena had not asked for it. Brahmanas thought it is our responsibility, which is correct. Vena is supposed to follow. But Brahmanas gave an advice. So my question is, advice. What do you learn from Bhagavad Gita? When an advice should be given? आपके अनुसार भगवद गीता के रेफरेंस को अगर देखें, हमें एडवाइस दूसरों को कब देनी चाहिए? शास्त्र प्रमाण के अनुसार बताइएगा. Yes, we take a mic from the team. Shah,
when someone surrender to that person.
Someone surrenders. इतना हाई लेवल एक्सपेक्टेशन है यार तुम्हारा. सरेंडर थोड़ा बेसिक टर्म में बोलो ना, जो समझ आ जाए. एकदम से वैदिक पद्धति के रूप में बोल रहे हो. सरेंडर. When someone asks for it, a classic example is what the Prabhu meant was Shishyastham Sadhimatvam Prapannam. And that was pertaining to that culture. And we can't expect, but at least somebody asked for. So yes, Krishna did not speak until Arjuna asked for guidance, and then Krishna spoke. Now my question to you is, what are the possible consequences if you give an unsolicited advice? Unsolicited advice means आप एडवाइस दे रहे हो जबकि आपसे पूछा नहीं गया है. आप मजे में हीरो बन के घूम रहे हो. हम उनका उद्धार करेंगे. हाँ भाई, कुछ लोग वाचक एकम का बिल्कुल भी पालन नहीं करते हैं, वो नॉन स्टॉप चलते फिरते एडवाइस बनाते हैं. तो व्हाट कुड बी द पॉसिबल कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस? व्हाट कुड हैपन? when you make a point, see if you can relate with Shastra Praman. Again, we're focusing on Shastra Chakshu. Most of you are Bhakti Shastri students. How many of you have completed Bhakti Shastri? Raise your hand. Only 3-4 of you have completed Bhakti Shastri. हाथ उठाने में आफत आ रही है. हाथ उठाने में बोलो क्या कर रहे हैं? तो ढंग से उठाओ ना तो पता तो चले. बाकी दूसरे लोगों पे उनका कॉन्फिडेंस बढ़ेगा. How many of you are pursuing Bhakti Shastri? Okay, so that is almost more or less. How many of you have no relationship with Bhakti Shastri दूर दूर तक का? मतलब हाथ खड़ा करो ऊंचा. या इतने साल भक्ति में हो गए हैं, भक्ति शास्त्री करना चाहिए. You should sign up. Anyways, we're starting Sunday afternoon. Sometime soon, so you join those batch. ठीक है. Okay, yes, please. Possible consequence of giving unsolicited advice. Anyone online? Yes, Shri Sanatapur. And with the reference, with Shastra Praman. कि ऐसा हुआ था. तो फिर शास्त्र प्रमाण के संग ना.
सबसे पहले तो रेडी रहना चाहिए कि हमारी बेइज्जती हो जाएगी सबके सामने. जैसे कि विदुर के सामने हुआ. विदुर ने दुर्योधन को दिया, दुर्योधन ने मांगा नहीं था, उन्हीं को बाहर निकाल दिया.
No, the Viduji didn't give an advice to Duryodhan. That was a different scene a little bit.
But actually he told to Duryodhan, he never asked for.
No, he never told to Duryodhan. Vidura was speaking to Dhritarashtra. He never. Viduji cannot make that mistake.
But that advice was for Duryodhan and Dhritarashtra, what they should do.
Advice for the suggestion, and Viduji was totally correct because he was a minister. His duty was to give advice. So in that situation is totally correct. The response is wrong, which is totally agree. So what happened in that case? As a minister of Dhritarashtra has already hired him for that purpose. So now that every time Vidur has to speak, he have to ask, I submit to you. That's the role of a minister. So Vidurji said, my dear king, this is totally wrong. If you can fix your son, who is the cause of the whole problem, then everything would be fixed. Duryodhana could not tolerate, which is understandable. But unsolicited advice.
So in my case, I'll speak in other way. So मूर्खों ही उपदेशा नाम, जिसमें बोला गया कि मूर्खों को यदि उपदेश देंगे तो हमें ही बंदर जैसे कुछ बोलते हैं तो बंदर उल्टा ही ऐसे रिएक्ट करता है कि सेम हमारे साथ हुआ कि
सुभाषितम का ये रेफरेंस है. उसमें कहानी आती है. Once in a rainy season, this is a particular episode from the forest. On a tree there was a bird who had built a beautiful nest for herself, and it was raining heavily. The bird went inside the nest and she was totally protected. And on the branch she saw a monkey shivering out of cold. And the bird felt pity at that monkey. And she said to him, "Oh monkey, you're so powerful than I, and you are sitting on the branch and shivering. Don't you see? I have built a nest for myself, and see how I'm able to take care of myself. Why don't you build a nest for yourself? Then you can tolerate this and you don't have to suffer." Guess what happened? As Shri Sanatana said, if you give an advice to a fool, then the fool will harm you back. Monkey got agitated and angry. He came back and destroyed the nest of the bird, threw the bird out. So have to be careful to whom we give advice. Anything else? So that's good reference. Thank you for that. Anything else? Okay, maybe personal experience. अगर किसी का experience रहा. Okay. How many of you would agree? हमने advice दी, and we could see it was not well received and taken. And after that we felt, मैं क्यों बोलता हूँ फालतू में? चुप रहता तो अच्छा रहता. How many of you had that experience? थोड़ा धैर्य रखना चाहिए, patience रखना चाहिए. Yes, at least it's not the minimum experience हुआ है. If you not have had this situation like what the monkey had it. Okay. Alright, so let's see what's going to happen now. How Vena is going to react to it. So in the case of Vena, first thing is that the example is just like Sanatana was saying about Duryodhana. If you're giving advice to somebody who is envious, you have to be ready for a serious repercussion, serious reaction. The person will become agitated. Yes or no? Have you noticed? Particularly a feedback, because literally it was like a feedback. Follow dharma. You're not following dharma. How many of you agree the person will not be able to tolerate? We all have that experience. Okay, let me put it this way. How many of you were on the receiving end and you were given an advice from the person who you didn't want to accept the advice for whatever reason? Maybe you thought he's equal to me, maybe I'm better than him, or whatever it is. And when the advice came for, follow this. They said, follow Dharma. It'll be good for you. Lord will be pleased. Make sure everyone follows the Varnashrama. It was a kind of instruction in terms of advice. How many of you remember when you felt agitated and disturbed? Raise your hands. And now the way you would have reacted, let's see how Vena reacted. Try to see if there was similarity. Okay. I mean, please understand human emotions. This is the real life stories. It's not because the times have changed, the human way of reacting would change. So let's see. The way you reacted is the same way. Maybe he might have reacted because he's definitely arrogant. We may not be so arrogant. Or maybe a toned down version. Was it like that? Let's see that. Okay. Text number 23. Vena Vacha. Oh, we read that already. So, translation. King Vena replied, You are not at all experienced. तुम लोगों को कुछ पता ही नहीं है. It is very much regrettable that you're maintaining something which is not religious and accepting it as religious. Indeed, I think you're giving up your real husband who maintains you and is searching after some paramour to worship. One word. What do you think is Vena doing now? One word. What do you think Vena is doing now? Huh? What is Vena doing here now? Revolt. Okay, what else? What is Vena doing here? That we all do. Justify. No, the insult is not there. Right? I mean, it's not that much insult because it's an analogy. The point is, justifying. It is very much regrettable that you're maintaining something which is not religious. In other words, what I am doing is right. What you're doing is not right. So first of all, he's doing is justify. Insult to bhi aage aane wali hai. The first attempt. Do you all agree? When we responded, the very first thing we did also justified our action. How many of you agree? When we didn't were willing to accept the advice, first thing we said is justification. All right. चलो वेना के वंशजों आगे बढ़ते हैं. हम सब नहीं हैं. We all are there. human, your wishes. All right. So Prabhupada's purport. King Vena was so foolish that he accused the saintly sages of being inexperienced like small children. In other words, he was accusing them of not having perfect knowledge. In this way, he could reject their advice and make accusations against them, comparing them to a woman who does not care for her husband who maintains her, but goes to satisfy a paramour who does not maintain her. So yeah, in the same verse we can see from justification goes to a little bit doubting their loyalty. This thing now, the second part which says, Ye vratidam patim hitva jaram patim. The one who is maintaining you, you're not being loyal to him. You're trying to have an affair. So now doubting their loyalty, which means doubting their integrity, which means you're not my well-wisher only. And what he is indicating is his doubt on them. Why? Because not willing to accept advice from them. Getting the connection? Why? I don't consider you a well-wisher. Therefore, I will not hear to your advice. That is what is happening, and that generally happens when we are envious. Of course, it could happen in some other relationship also, but that's the first point. Text number 24. Avajananti ami mudha naparupinam ishwaram nanuvindanti te bhadram ihaloke paratracha. So you can write on the steps and stages how it goes through, so you'll be familiar and help us to be careful when we are dealing in Vaishnava community. We don't repeat the same conduct. That's how the changes happen. Those who out of ignorance do not worship the King, who is actually the Supreme Personality Godhead, experience happiness neither in this world nor in the world after death. So now he's exhibiting his arrogance. So what happens is, he called the Brahmanas inexperienced. And who's actually inexperienced? The king. So why is he? You see that his intelligence getting bewildered now? Now this is something very basic. Whoever has gone through Vedic knowledge, they understand who worships whom. It is a king who will worship Brahmanas. Yes, Brahmanas will offer their praise. There are different categories of Brahmanas. One category of Brahmana will offer praise, but not all Brahmanas. The ritualistic Brahmana may do that, but not other Brahmanas. They say, oh, don't you know? Everyone is supposed to worship the king. So when you have taken a stance of justification, then largely we will not be able to think correctly. We are derailed. Think about it. Think about your past incident. Once we have taken the shelter of justification, now whatever, how much ever good advice has come, has to be wrong only. क्योंकि आप नहीं समझ रहे, मैं समझाता हूँ सही सच्चाई क्या है. That's what he's saying, na? You're not understanding. Let me tell you. You are inexperienced. You're telling me I'm inexperienced? No, I know. You don't know. And that justification leads a person to commit more foolish acts. Now you see. Does that make sense? Yeah. Have you experienced that? We have done that. The moment we start justifying, therefore, when it comes to particularly, tadvidhi pranipatena pari. In relationship with Guru, what is said? What are the things in relation to disciple Guru? How should disciple act or not act? Let's quickly recap that. What should disciple do and should not do? Huh? Disciple should serve. Okay, what else? Obedient should be obedient. Okay, what else? Huh? Yeah, don't show his intelligence. Don't consider himself to be intelligent. Gurudev, I know better. This is what is happening here, na? So Vena thinks, I know better. So now if a person or a student thinks I know better, then how can you help him grow? Please write on this very important thing. We all make a regular day mistake because this ego issue is such a, and plus because of our own social upbringing and conditioning, whatever background we all have come from, it takes time for some people to really understand that. So externally we may be saying, help me, help me, help me. But the moment when help comes, not the way you expected, the help comes, then we say, oh, how do you say like this? You notice that? Because we're conditioned beings. So how do we change our condition? That's the point here. So one thing is to consider ourselves foolish, which means when we are in a senior relationship, what should be the conduct? Should we speak more? Should we hear more? So unless you hear more, there's no relationship you can call senior-junior relationship. When a junior begins to speak more than the senior already considers the senior as his peer. ये क्या जानता है, क्या बोलेगा ये? That's a psyche. It's just a psyche. And then the next stage is aparad. Aparad begins. We can just mute. Accidentally got unmuted. Fine. Is that making sense? I'll repeat myself. So senior or our mentor or manager, whatever, not office manager, temple authority I'm saying, at least there are certain relationships where we have to hear. You can clarify, but before completing, let him complete. You begin to interject and speak. Then you are expressing yourself that you are not my senior. You are my peer. And it's not something you're intentionally doing. You're conditioned in that way. It's not that you may have respect for the senior, but you're conditioned and trained like that. From your childhood, you have argued with your parents, maybe you argued with your teachers, so you have got trained like that. But moment you argue like this, the other person who is trained up, who understands the psyche, he will immediately withdraw. I said, nothing doing. Tumhe jo karna hai karo. Now, how much ever you come and back, please give me advice, you ain't gonna get advice. You ain't gonna get feedback. Because you have been already tagged as you're not worthy. And then wait and watch period begins. We'll wait. We'll see. Many times people say, when we go to Guru Maharaj doesn't give us instruction. I'm just telling you why they're not giving instruction. Because they want to wait and watch and see, are we really obedient? Are we really going to follow? Or just because our sentiments or some misalignment with our mind, we are asking for something which anyways we're not going to do. These are some of the things to reflect we can see in Vena's behavior. All right, text number 25. You are so much devoted to the Devatas, but who are they? Now, so justification and then the next is arrogance, and the third thing is offense. You are so much devoted to the Devatas. Who are they? Indeed, your affection for these Devatas is exactly like the affection of an unchaste woman who neglects her married life and gives a lot of attention to her paramour. So justification, arrogance, and now offense. Is that okay? 26, 27. Lord Vishnu, Lord Vishnu, Brahma, and Lord Shiva, Lord Indra, Vayu, the master Yama, the sun god, Kuvera, the moon god, predominating deity of the earth, Agni, Varuna, the Lord of water, all others who are great, competent to bestow benedictions or to curse, all abide in the body of the king. For this reason, the king is known as the reservoir of all devtas, who are simply parts and parcels of the king's body. Purport. There are many demons who think of themselves as supreme and present themselves as the directors of sun, moon, and other planets. This is all due to false pride. Similarly, King Venom developed the demonic mentality and present himself as the supreme lord. Such demons are numerous in this age of Kali, and all of them are condemned by great sage and silly persons. So, by the way, is Vena wrong? It's a fact. It's not wrong. Because the king is a representative of the Lord. That much as Bhagavat, Yasyasti Bhakti Bhagavati Akinchana Sarve Gune Satra Samasati Sura. In fact, all the good qualities of the Lord and Devata are residing in the body of even a saintly person. So it's not wrong for king to have, but for him to proclaim, because all reside in my body, therefore I'm better. But wait a second, the same reside in the body of the sadhus also, not only sadhus, the same reside in the body of everyone. The more we become obedient, their qualities begin to manifest. The limbs which are moving, the limbs which are functioning in the body, is just because of the blessing of that particular Devata who is the Ishta, or presiding deity of Devata, or presiding deity of that particular sense. For example, who is the presiding deity of eyes? Sun. For the taste, moon or Varuna maybe. So there's a whole list given in the Bhagavatam. So because the presiding deity's mercy, different limbs are working. So that is for everyone, not only for the king. But what is happening here? So it's not technically wrong. The point is say that, Janu, मैं कौन हूँ? That's the attitude he's having right now. That's the problem over here. Okay, text number 28. King Vena continued. Justification, arrogance, and then offense. And he's building up his own arrogance now. And justifying, why you should do it. King Vena continued. For this reason, O Brahmanas, you should abandon your envy for me. Oh, Brahmanas have become envious of Vena. You see how intelligence get lost out? And by your ritualistic activities, you should worship me. Offer me. Me. Pay attention. Me, I'm emphasizing this word, me. All paraphernalia. If you're intelligent, you should know that there is no personality superior to me who can accept the first oblations of all sacrifices. This is a very regular routine things that happen in any community, with the leader particularly. So remember in the last class we said one of the job profile of leader is to protect. And what does protection involve? Which is correct. What does protection involve? Taking tough decisions, which at times may also involve some kind of reprimand, course correction. And whenever you make tough decisions, it's going to be tough for some people to digest. And for those it becomes tough to digest, and there they begin to think like this. And then what will happen? They'll begin to find fault. And this is where the fault finding begins. Are wo kaise kar sakte hain aisa? And I tried to emphasize in the last session also, please understand, just because we are practicing bhakti does not mean that we know everything and we are correct. There is a whole lot truth to the world and reality that we have no access to. We have no understanding of it. Just because we have grown up to become 20, 25, 30, 35, 40 years, or 45, 50, whatever age you have got it, to think that now I know is a very dangerous thing. If in case we ever fall victim to such kind of a thing, only recourse for you to save yourself is take a deep breath and go and speak to somebody who is a sober and a mature devotee and ask that he or she Is that the right way of looking at it? Am I looking at it correctly or not? But if you don't do that, I'm giving you proper attitude, etiquette, what to do with it. If you don't do that, if you go with the conditioned nature of gossiping around, then it's so dangerous. Nothing much going to happen there. Your faith will destroy, and along with your faith, you will destroy the faith of many other. You will become responsible for the loss of faith for many other. So we have to be careful for that. It's not so easy. Because he is saying, you should abandon your envy. So who is envious of whom? The king is saying, the Brahmanas envious. So the one who a genuine well-wisher. Can you see how the ego and the mind can trick? The one who a genuine well-wisher, Vena is saying, you are envious of me. This is conditioned nature. We have to be careful. We have to be careful to say such a strong words, particularly for those who have been well. Now these Brahmanas are not just, they just came from the forest into the kingdom now. These are the Brahmanas who are advising his father. Same set of Brahmanas who are advising his grandfather. So they are time-tested relationship. Which means even if you have grown up under somebody, still there is every possibility that relationship can get spoiled. Tomorrow you may end up becoming his worst enemy. And you look around in terms of our own history of our movement, how people come, they serve, then they leave and whatnot, only because of one thing. When a person begins to grow up, he begins to project more and more of his thinking. Prabhu should act like this only. Prabhu should not act like this. This is the right way only. Because when we were young, that time we accepted we are young. So we don't know anything. भाई मैंने भी तो भगवद गीता पढ़ ली है, मैं भी तो 16 माला नाम जप करता हूँ, मुझे भी उपदेशामृत के श्लोक याद हैं, तो मेरे अनुसार ये राइट कंडक्ट है, ये रॉन्ग कंडक्ट है, प्रभु को ऐसा करना चाहिए या माता जी को ऐसा करना चाहिए. You getting it? And we begin to project our perceptions, our way of thinking, our understanding of Shastra over the leader. Now, are you totally wrong? No, that's not the point. We have to also understand, again, I'm trying to focus on the human part of an individual. Every leader, every group for that reason, every personality have got their own way of looking at things and emphasizing. For example, just to help you understand this diversity, here's one is a Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. They all say, all the leaders, Prabhupada emphasized on so many things. But, the student of Prabhupada, let's say Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, his own Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, he also emphasized on many things, but his major attention was on book distribution. Now, his own Radhanath Maharaj, his major emphasis was on community building. His own Lokanath Goswami Maharaj, you can say his emphasis was Padyatra. I'm just saying. You see that? Now, if you come back and you bring your perception, let's say to his own Radhanath Maharaj, why Maharaj keeps saying Vaishnava building, community building? हो गया ना कितना community? हमें book वितरण करना चाहिए. Book वितरण should be the right thing. Why Maharaj does it? Maharaj is not doing, he's not giving enough emphasis on what Prabhupada wanted. Prabhupada wanted book distribution. You are right. You're not wrong. But please understand, he is also right. Point is, he has particular emphasis and priority which he thinks is very important. Because what you value is what you're going to speak about. You're not wrong. Rather than gossiping around, you can go and ask Prabhuji, Maharaj, whatever, we have been emphasizing on this. What is your direction towards book distribution? Now my question to all of you is, are we supposed to function independently or are we supposed to function under the paradigm that our leadership gives us? You said submissive. What is the definition of submissive then? We're supposed to function in the paradigm and the boundary which is given. Now if the Guru says or the leader says, Prabhu, yes, we can go once in a month for 2 hours. And you have been thinking that har hafte jana thi 2 ghanta. Whether you get the instruction, yes. You can go once in a month for 2 hours or you can inspire community, I'm fine. Now because you had your own plans, you were thinking, no, hafte mein 2 ghanta hona hi chahiye. You realize how much it will be a difficulty to adjust. I wanted this much. I wanted 8 hours in a month. I only got 2 hours. Why Maharaj is not giving? Why Temple Authority is not giving permission? What are we supposed to do at the point of time? Go around and fuss about? Go and talk about? Frustrate, anger, frustration. This is what a conditional living attitude will do. An immature person, these are symptoms of Kanishta. What he'll do? This is what Kanishta will go around. He'll keep on talking about his frustration. Why is he not listening? Somebody needs to advise him. He's wrong. This is wrong. That is wrong. Blah, blah, blah. And what would have been the right course of action? Surrender. Surrender. Beautiful song by Gawani Prabhu. Surrender. So we're supposed to follow that. Now you may say, Prabhu, but, yeah, there is always but. But please understand, if you think you're God conscious, so you know for sure Krishna has put you into that relationship for a reason. If you're not willing to accept, you're not God conscious. You're acting independent. If you think you're God conscious, you understand Krishna is playing, then please understand Krishna has chosen you to be into that relationship, into that situation. Now you cannot fight against. You're fighting against your needs. You're fighting against what Krishna wants you to do. And what Krishna wants you to do? Surrender. And that's the difference between immature and mature devotee. I can't go in details. I went to temple for because there was some very sensitive meeting. Not going in detail because it's getting recorded. I'll just not take any names. So one spiritual master took a particular decision and a stance. And the leaders who went to him, they just could not tolerate that. So point was of punishment. Somebody did something wrong and punishment had to be given. And the spiritual master took a very calm, mild approach to it. And these individuals who had done the whole R&D and research on the investigation, then they went to him and they were expecting some severe punishment. But Maharaj, the spiritual master took a very, very mild approach. Leaders were wild. Nahi, hona chahiye. And Maharaj is not agreeing. So what to do? They came back to the community and they told the community, the leaders, you don't make a public thing like this. They told the leaders, so this is what is the situation. This is what Maharaj wants. So everyone said, horrible, horrible, this is so wrong. Nahi, ye galat hai, ye wo hai. So then this particular leader said, okay, don't blame us. We are also having the same feeling as you are having it. But this is the decision of the spiritual master. He is the ultimate authority. This is a decision. So if you want, you can go and talk to him. नहीं हम बात नहीं करेंगे, हमें पता है वो यही बोलने वाले, तो फायदा क्या है? So what do you want then? No punishment. But we can't give punishment because we have been given a framework to work, a boundary to work in. So what is the role of a disciple? Or what is the role of a student? To follow the boundary given. Trying to rectify him, you will get into trouble. So therefore, our idea and concept of Sharanagati is very shallow, and that becomes a huge bottleneck for us to grow. Major thing that is growing along with us when we're growing Krishna conscious, our ego. I know. That is only we keep doing, and that I know covers up our, our false ego, and then it protects our I know or our false ego like that. So at every time, whoever we are, how great we become, we have to do surrender. If that is not the first yardstick for you to function, everything else fails. Everything else fails. Again, I am not recommending and promoting some false, blind surrender kind of thing. आप पहले सुन लो, सुनने के बाद आपको नहीं जमता है कुछ है, then there is an etiquette and a way to clarify things. But again, you want to act in your conditioned nature without hearing. As a student, I'm supposed to first listen. Without even listening, I'm just going to blabber and blabber. What point it is? It's just a waste of time. And at max, teacher may give us a benefit of doubt thinking that he's so new and naive in Krishna consciousness, is so neophyte. Okay, let's hear him, let's give him some time. But what to do? But for all of you who've been around for so long, so I just wanted to share some perspective on this to, what should be our way of dealing with it. Again, I know for some of us could be very difficult because we have been conditioned in a certain way. But it's a good project, isn't it, to change certain conditioning now? Otherwise, after a while, we think, what is there to now face a battle? I'm following 4 regular principles. I'm chanting my 6 rounds. Life seems there is no more battle to fight. Wait a second. We are introducing you to the new battleground. The battleground of conditionings. अब इससे लड़के दिखाओ, तब पता चलेगा क्या स्थिति है. Now from external, move to internal. Text number 29. So like this he spoke, then Maithya Mani said, The great sage Maitreya continued, thus the king who became unintelligent due to his sinful life, deviation from the right path, became actually bereft of all good fortune. See what interesting thing. Now, very important, very important, very important. It is not that the particular devotee was not properly situated in his Krishna consciousness. He had been practicing all this while. It's not that we had devotees like Duryodhana or Vena. No. Devotees were, they became sincere. They were practicing for years together. Suddenly one fine day comes that they begin to argue now. One fine day comes that they begin to justify their action. One fine day comes that they begin to think, I know better now. How come suddenly, and the same devotees, if you look back at, same devotees were obedient, humble, submissive before. But now things have changed. Why it has changed? The whole science is not things are happening randomly. I mean, you were going in a very nice cruise way. You were humble. You were submissive. You had a lot of respect. And even if something didn't make sense to you, okay, maybe let me give some time. I'll understand. You were following that. Suddenly one day comes into your life. Now you're like, no, I will not listen. क्या कहा ये? क्यों कहा ऐसा? We begin to justify, argue, and doubt the intelligence of the same leader who has been training us, caring for us. What happened? And it's a part of every community. Every community goes through that. I mean, every leader has to go through that. It's a part of purification of a leader. So he continues to remain humble. What happened with the student? Yes, Gautam bro. What could have gone wrong?
Maybe in the past.
Mike, for those who are online.
Maybe in the past, if he has some doubts, he had not clarified and
Okay,
kept
very
it.
nice. The doubts, lingering doubts. What else? What changed here is he has started taking bad association. It just cannot happen without asat sang. So now if we have to objectively investigate what happened to this boy or other, and we just pause and look at a little bit of his history, you will see somewhere he has got some bad association. Now we say, Prabhu, that fellow never went out of devotee community. Maybe never went out of devotee community. Multiple things can happen. Maybe he started spending too much time on social media. You getting it? Watching too much political news. Watching too much political news, he became political. That is asasang, na? It's not only person, it's about information also. Therefore, we are always at risk. तो लोग आवाज नहीं आती यार मजे में झूम रहे हो तो बैठे बैठे I'm sensitive to the sound. I get distracted. What was I saying?
Social media.
Asatsang. Okay, what type of asatsang there could be? When I said social media, political news, many things. First, what could be other asatsanga? Of a person. Now, that person could be maybe a peer or somebody. Now, you are not in touch of news, social media too much. But this fellow could be. And now, because he has got corrupted, because that asatsang, and you are taking association of his, he corrupts you. You got it now? Wow, how dangerous it is. How dangerous. Therefore, I have been emphasizing from the day one, please, there is no alternative for our survival unless we understand Shastra and develop Shastra Chakshu. You never have the ability to discern between right and wrong. What should be the right course of action, wrong course of action? If you're just thinking, I'll just continue with chanting Hare Krishna, doing some deity worship, life will be all good. Life will be all good for the first 1 week or 2 weeks. After that, there are a lot of challenges. You may be in the devotee community, but totally in the bad association. Totally in the bad associations. We all got to sincerely study Prabhupada books and study like Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav. I already clarified, I believe, in this forum somewhere. Even if you don't have time to write exams, at least go through the lectures, hear the lectures. Particularly if you're in your community, there are live lectures happening, there is nothing better than that. You got to take out time for it. Don't give an excuse. It's very important. Don't write exam, but at least hear it, so at least you get to know something about it. Okay, I lost my thoughts. I got distracted. Let's move forward then. What was I saying? Where were we? Okay, we read that, right? 30. My dear, with all good fortune unto you, the foolish king who thought himself very learned, thus insulted the great sages. And the sages, being broken-hearted by the king's words, became very angry at him. So, I mean, what will happen if a student speaks to a teacher like that? One Prabhupada disciple came in Vrindavan and says, Prabhupada, I have decided to leave. Prabhupada said, to where? Where? कहाँ जा रहे तू? बोला, Prabhupada, I have decided to take shelter of so and so Guru at Radha Kund. I mean, it was such heartbreaking. What not Prabhupada did? He brought this crazy fellow from wherever he was to Vrindavan, showed him and all that. And Prabhupada said, I bless you that you may never find any shelter. Or I curse you. You understood, not blessing and curse. You know? And there was very rarely, Prabhupada literally said, I curse you kind of thing. It's very rarely Prabhupada would get angry. But once in a while, I mean, eventually, they are also humans, na? Jiva has emotions. How much are you going to test? So Brahmanas could not tolerate. And Brahmana said, can you imagine? Please remember, I don't know if you know or not, let me tell you why you are standing in Krishna consciousness. Why am I standing in Krishna consciousness? Because somebody prayed for us. If you have any doubt on it, please trust my word, write it down for you. You are here not because you have any ability. You are here because somebody prayed for you. Pray to the Lord to be here practicing Krishna consciousness. Just don't behave in such a way that the same people stop praying for you. You know, I humble request, please be careful. Don't act and behave in a way so that the devotees stop praying for you, because they stop praying for you. You will be the first one to run out. This is another misunderstanding of a Kanishta. He thinks, Mera naam jap, Mera shastra dhyan, Mera bal. Tera koi bal nahi hai. Tera sab bal buddhi hai. Moti buddhi wala tu aadmi aur kuch nahi hai. It's only because devotees have prayed and devotees are praying for you. So don't act. So here now what happens? Brahmanas get angry. So now he's going to have problem. Hanyatam hanyatamesha. Curse him. In the case of Vena, kill him. Papa prakriti darunaha. Jivan jagat asa ashu. Kurute bhasma sadhruvam. क्या कितने क्रोधित हो गए? You ever come across any reference like this? Kill him, Papa Prakriti Daruna. This wretched, dreadful person, जीवन जगत असौ आशु, जीते हुए इसने सबको रुला दिया है. कुरुते भस्मसा ध्रुवम, इसको भस्म करके नाश कर दो. Any episode you remember from anywhere where Brahmanas became so angry? And these are just not Brahmanas, they must be great devotees also, you know. We're talking about long Satya Yuga. There was not much demigod worship, there was all Vishnu worship. How angry? So you would have, please understand what all Vena would have done, which would have agitated. We're just discussing few things. But in other words, what I'm trying to say is, when the Brahmanas or these sages came to Vena to give, let's say, unsolicited advice, they were compelled, they had no other option. Why? Because the action of the Vena. So as a well-wisher, they came and tell him, Prabhu, we've got to understand, you have done enough now. You've got to change your personality. Now, the people who would not bother, Prabhupada, we discussed that last time, what is the job profile of sadhus, sages? They got nothing to do with political affairs and material life. They got nothing. Yet, they left their, whatever tapasya, yajna they have to do, came to meet him for his good sake. This rascal is saying, you don't know why? You should worship me. You all are bewildered. अब एक चाटा मारने का मन करे नहीं करेगा. हम अपने केस में बोलेंगे झापा मारो. तो यहाँ से जी ने कहा हनेता हमेशा kill him, this rascal. And that's what happens. Now, Papa, duty of a saintly person. Can you switch off the screen? Reflectioning on my guess, it's not good. Saintly persons are generally very kind to all kinds of living entities, but they are not unhappy when a serpent or scorpion is killed. It is good for saintly persons to kill, but they are encouraged to kill demons, exactly like serpents and scorpions. Now what happens is, here the Brahmanas are giving punishment, or the sages are giving punishment to Vena. You bring in an emotional character here now. Remember last time we were talking about emotional character? And the emotional character, particularly ladies, they enter the scene. क्यों इतनी punishment दे रहे हैं? This is what happened in Draupadi, na? And Prabhupada writes in the first canto, because of a womanly nature, the weaker side of the woman is emotion, too much emotional. She began to think, oh, Ashwatthama, we have already killed his father, what will happen to his mother and whatnot. And the same Ashwatthama went back and again shot an Brahmastra to kill the only surviving hope in the Pandavas, not my whole Kuru lineage. That was Parishit Maharaj. And what Draupadi? No, 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 no. So, ladies, don't get involved in management. You get it straight? I repeat again. Don't get involved in management. Unless you have evaluated yourself and built upon your rational side of it. Don't now put me that I am against female Diksha Guru and all that. Don't put me into that category. I'm not here talking about FDG and all that thing. But in general, unless you fix your conditioned nature, don't come into management. So sometimes they ask me, Prabhu ji, हमें सिर्फ कुकिंग क्यों करनी होती है? करो, आप कुछ और भी करो, प्रचार भी करो, सब चलेगा. बुक वितरण करो, टीचिंग करो, but don't get into management and organization. उसमें वो थोड़ा तहलका होगा. हाँ या ना? मुश्किल होता है मतलब? You handle Govinda's Janmashtami. So, and they cannot understand why certain things have been done. So, for my humble request to ladies, don't comment. Continue with your peaceful bhakti, or else you ask with your husband or you clarify, but don't give your verdict. Draupadi gave a verdict. No, he cannot be killed. And then Yudhishthira came to her support. So take care of that. Okay, duty of saying, but then encourage the kill demons, blah blah blah. Take care. Next, text number 32. The saintly sages continued. The impious, impudent man does not deserve to sit on the throne at all. He is so shameless that he even dared insult the Supreme Person, God and Lord Vishnu. Again, just to clarify, because this is getting recorded, unless you really fix your conditioned nature, don't get into management. I'm not saying never get into it. So, you have learned Shastras nicely. You're able to at least develop some amount of Shastra Chakshu, then get involved, not prior to that. Okay. Proper action, the purport. One should not at any time tolerate blasphemy, insult against the Lord, because he had insulted the Lord, therefore sages became very wild. Text number 33. But for King Vena, who is simply inauspicious, who would blaspheme the Lord, by whose mercy one is awarded all kinds of fortune and opulences. Proper action, the purport. When human society individually or collectively becomes godless and blasphemes the authority of the Supreme Lord, it is certainly destined for unition. Please highlight this point. Such an important thing. Why our society, present society, is in trouble? Why there is a conflict after conflict after conflict? There's a godless civilization. You can't expect anything. For those of us who are too much into politics and all that, who think by this arrangement, that arrangement, there will be peace. There could not be any peace. There will only be peace when the society becomes God conscious. So if you want to make a contribution, become God conscious yourself and help others become God conscious who are around you. You're helping in the peace of the world, creating a peace in society. Text number 34. The great sages, thus manifesting their covert anger, immediately decided to kill the king. King Vena was already as good as dead due to his blasphemy against the Lord. Thus, without using any weapons, the sages killed King Vena simply by high-sounding words. Curse. After all the sages returned to their respective hermitages, the mother of King Vena, Sunita, became very much aggrieved because of her son's death. She decided to preserve the dead body of her son by the application of certain ingredients and by chanting mantras. Next, once upon a time, the same saintly person, after taking their bath in the river Saraswati, began to perform their daily duties by offering oblations into the sacrificial fires. After this, sitting on the bank of the river, they began to talk about the transcendent person and his pastime. Now, this again shows something very interesting. The sages have killed Vena, yet nobody revolted against the sages, which means the whole ministers, the whole kingdom was under the surveillance or supervision of sages. Otherwise, the ministers could have lifted up the weapons now. Because this is how it's shown Brahman and Kshatriya had conflict. No, there's no conflict. Sages went to his place, uttered a curse, killed him, daylight murder, came back, no investigation. And the mother or the son knows. What did she do? She just preserved the body. Not that she ordered, okay, go and kill the sages. So there was a particular way of functioning. Text number 37. In those days, there were various disturbances in the country. They were creating a panic in the society. Therefore, all the sages began to talk amongst themselves. Since the king is dead, and there is no protecting the world, misfortune may befall the people in general account of rogues and thieves. Prabhupada writes in the purport, once again, what is the duty of a saintly person? The conclusion made of the purport is that even though saintly persons have no business political affairs, they are always compassionate upon the people in general. Thus, even though they are always aloof from society out of mercy and compassion, they consider how the citizens can peacefully execute their rituals and follow the rules and regulations of an ashram dharma. Text number 38. Purport, let's conclude that purport. That was the concern of the sages. In this age of Kali, everything is disturbed. Therefore, saintly persons should take to the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. I just made this point before. So how you can contribute to creating a peaceful society is not by changing the political ecosystem which is beyond us, by performing the yajna, chanting the holy names of the Lord. Text number 38. When the great sages were carrying on their discussion this way, they saw a dust storm arising from all directions. This storm was caused by the running of thieves and rogues. Can you imagine? कितनी डकैती पड़ रही होगी? They're sitting in the hermitage. They saw 360 degrees all over. There was a dust storm. Why? Thieves and rogues were running after looting. How much terrible situation would be, think, by the running of the thieves and rogues who were engaged in plundering the citizens. Text number 39 and 40. Upon seeing the dust storm, the saintly person could understand that there was a great deal of irregularities due to the death of King Vena. Now, so my question to all of you. Again, I'm having an open-ended discussion. Think out loud. They have come back to the same situation where it started with. Yes or no?
Yes.
So my question is, who made Vena the king? So were they wrong or right? No, they were not right. They were wrong. To err is human. To err is human. To think that the leader cannot make a mistake. Makes a mistake, that cannot be a leader. They made a mistake. They made a mistake. And because that mistake, society suffered more. But their intention was not to make a mistake. They had all the good intentions. While trying to really serve, they thought this is the best option available. So like this, in particularly, this is a very important reflection for a leader. Like this in the life of a leader, situation will come where he has to make a decision, but he doesn't have a better option. So he has to pick a whatever available option. With the hope, like people ask this question, did Srila Prabhupada knew past, present, future? Did Prabhupada knew the so-and-so brahmachari or grasta who is going to be given sannyas will not last in sannyas ashram? So many people find fault with Srila Prabhupada for that. See, Prabhupada also made a mistake by giving sannyas to somebody who after a while fell away. No. You do it with a hope, with an available option that the person will change. So therefore here, the pages of Bhagavatam or Maitreya Muni is not finding fault with the sage. The sage has made a mistake. But again, a conditioned living entity is more prone to looking at faults. He'll say, galat decision, like people say, how can Prabhupada make a wrong choice of giving him sannyas? Prabhupada knew that this person will not survive. And Prabhupada himself said, well, I did it with the good faith that they will take a proper responsibility. So as a part of community, it's easy to say, leader made a wrong choice. But we have to understand in what situation and what were the available options. It was all done in a good spirit of serving. And if there is a mistake happen, it's not because it wanted to be that way. The person who was given the responsibility could not acquire the necessary skills to carry out the roles. So be careful, don't for everything pull out. So much so, even Prabhupada is not spared for that reason. And that is always going to happen. I'm just making a point. Here, Maitreya Muni is not saying the sages were at mistake by appointing. No. They had the best interest and they had no other option available. There was no other option available. So they thought, why don't we try it? Let's take a look at it. Upon seeing the dust storm, the saintly person could understand that there were a great deal of irregularity to the death of King Vena. Without government, the state was divided law and order, and consequently there was a great uprising of murderers, thieves, and rogues. But those who are envious of the leader, they will take an advantage of this situation and they'll say, see, he makes a mistake or she makes a mistake. So any situation like this ever happen, generally often when I go to such kind of situations, often thing I always say, to err is human. Everyone makes a mistake. But the difference between you and I is, the leader is one who makes a mistake and takes responsibility of his mistake. Now you see the sages taking responsibility. It's not that they made a mistake and they ran away. They will take a full responsibility and now they will fix it. Not that they made a mistake and they ran away. That's the difference. You getting the point? And we'll see that in the sages. Although the great sages would subdue this disturbance by their powers, just as they could kill the king, they considered improper on their part to do so. They did not attempt to stop the disturbance. The point is, by just saying if they could kill the king, they could have with mantra, they could kill all the thieves and rogues. But what would happen then? Then they would have become Kshatriya. They would not have been any more Brahmana. They said no. We have to function according to our code of conduct because we created a problem like King Vena. So we had to fix it because we had to take a responsibility of mistake we did. So we killed King Vena. Now we're not going to create another big problem by taking role of Kshatriya and killing out all the thieves and rogues. Are you seeing sages in a proper way? How it is? So when situation happens to us in our context, please have this beautiful example. Text number 41. The great sages began to think that all the Brahmana is peaceful and impartial, and because equal to everyone, it is still not his duty to neglect poor humans. By such neglect of Brahmana's spiritual power diminishes, just as water kept in a cracked pot leaks out. Prabhupada writes in the purport, fourth line. When there is a calamity in human society, they cannot remain impartial. The nature of the devotee is he's full of compassion. So don't expect him to sit idle and watch the calamity. It cannot happen. If they do not do something to relieve the distressed condition of human society, it's sad due to such neglect their spiritual knowledge diminish. You see this? And this is again in the third canto. Prabhupada says, if you don't share, all your spiritual realization will leak out. So in our context, if they do not do something to relieve the distressed condition of human society, what are we supposed to do to relieve the distressed condition of human society? It is said that due to such neglect, the spiritual knowledge diminishes. Then what are we supposed to do? Society is distressed. It is the duty of every devotee to go out and preach, to support the preaching mission, either by their time, either by their finances, either by their true energy, whatever. If not, due to such neglect, their spiritual knowledge diminishes. So, Prabhu, when you're going to share the note, highlight this point, golden point, this particular thing. I'm speaking on text number 41. Purport. In the middle, first paragraph, middle line, this can be highlighted particularly. Such an important point. Almost all the sages go to the Himalayas for their personal benefit, but Prahlad said that he did not want liberation alone. He decided to wait until he was able to deliver the fallen souls of the world. Again, Bhagavad Gita Krishna says, those who share the knowledge, they become very dear to me. So again, we got to go out, we got to share it, we got to support the preaching mission. Otherwise, if we just wait and watch the distress condition, we will not grow ourselves. Okay, text number, we are about to complete the chapter, so I have no idea what's the time, so please bear with me. Text number 42. The sages decided that the descendants of the family of the saintly King Anga should not be starved, for in this family the semen was very powerful and the children were prone to become devotees of the Lord. Okay, let's take a look at the purport. The purity of hereditary succession is called Amogha Virya. Amogha is faultless. The pious seminal succession in the twice-born families of the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas especially, as well as in the families of Vaishyas also, must be kept very pure by the observation of the purificatory processes beginning with Garbhadhan Samskar, which is observed before conceiving a child. Unless this purificatory process is strictly observed, especially by the Brahmanas, the family descendants become impure and gradually sinful activity becomes visible in the family. So I hope you understand the depth of the subject. Prabhupada himself said, not the immediate, but the grandkids, they'll be better devotees. Or their kids. Because then, when people will, or community members will get into this whole idea of purificatory processes, Garbhadhan Samskara, then 1 or 2 generations later, then again we'll have more and more pure, jivas taking birth in the movement. That's the point we mentioned here. And that's the whole idea of this hereditary succession. Therefore, the king's son will become the king for this purpose. But again, there was a point, unless if he has the qualities, but generally they would have the qualities. Generally, they would have the qualities. Unless this purificatory process strictly observed, especially by the Brahmanas, the family descendants become impure. And then there is a marriage. Brahmana can get married to Brahmana, Brahmana can get married to Kshatriya, men. But a Kshatriya lady cannot get married to a Vaishya. She can get married to a Kshatriya or a Brahmana. So there was this idea also. Gradually, sinful activity becomes visible, especially the family descendants becomes impure, and gradually sinful activities become visible in the family. Maharaj Anga was very pure because of the purification of semen in the family of Maharaj Dhruv. However, semen became contaminated in association. You remember why Anga had Vena? Because the wife Sunita had come from the demon side, from the Asuric side. And it was an unfortunate incident that happened. Maybe that was the love story. Love, कहते हैं ना, प्रेम पागल नहीं क्या होता है, अंधा होता है. Love is blind. So maybe that could be the story. I don't know. That's not mentioned. I'm just saying. Otherwise, why would he get married to a girl from such a family background? Sunita, who happened to be the daughter of death, personified. Because of this polluted semen, King Vena was produced. This was a catastrophe in the family of Dhruva. All the saintly persons, sages considered this point, and they decided to take action in this matter, as described. So, what did they do? 43. After making a decision, the saintly person sages churned the thighs of the dead body of King Vena with great force, and according to a specific method, as a result of this churning, a dwarf-like person was born from King Vena's body. Puppet. Some science involved here. That a person was born by the churning of the thighs of King Vena proves that the spirit soul is individual and separate from the body. Important puppet. The great sages, probably you can mark golden puppets in your notes also. Text number 42 and 43 puppets, golden puppets. The great sages and saintly person could beget another person from the body of the dead king. It was not possible for them to bring King Vena back to life. King Vena was gone and certainly had taken another body. The saintly person sage was only concerned with the body of Vena because it was a result of seminal succession. Consequently, the ingredients by which another body could be produced were there in the body of King Vena. This is called test tube babies, I believe, right? Test tube babies. So they're kind of extracting the semen. Something like that is happening. By a certain process, when the thighs of the dead body were churned, another body came out. I mean, it was not test tube babies. It was directly birth. Whatever process. The test tube babies also, after that, that thing ferments or whatever it is, then it is put in the womb of the mother, right? That happens. But that is not happening here. It's without the mother. It was more advanced. All the dead, the body of King Vena was preserved by drugs and mantras chanted by King Vena's mother. In this way, the ingredients for the production of the body were there. When the body of the person named Bahuka came out of the dead body of King Vena, it was really not very astonishing. It was simply a question of knowing how to do it. When the semen of one body, another body is produced, and the life symptoms are visible due to the souls taking shelter of this body, one should not think that it was impossible for another body to come out of the dead body of Maharaj Vena. This was performed by the skillful action of the sages. Good subject matter for PhD. Good research. Text number 44. This person born from King Vena's size was named Bahuka. His complexion was as black as a crow's. All the limbs of his body were very short. His arms and legs were short, and his jaws were large. His nose was flat. His eyes were reddish, and his hair copper colored. New species is born, looks like. He was very submissive and meek, and immediately after his birth, he bowed down and inquired, "Sir, what shall I do?" The great sages replied, "Please sit down, Nishida." Thus, Nishad, the father of Nishada race, was born. Nishad race, कहाँ पे आता है इसका reference? Ramayana, yes. So these are always part of Yavana's Malachas. They are always outcasts. So that guy, क्या नाम है, जिसका thumb काटा गया था? Eklavya. That was in the Nishad community. It is said in the Shastra, "Have the body represent Brahmana, blah blah blah." Okay. The Shudras are sometimes called black, Krishna. The Brahmanas are called white. Kshatriya Vaishya are the mixture of black and white. However, those who are extraordinarily white have to have skin produced out of However, those who are extraordinarily white are said to have skin produced out of white leprosy. So don't get attracted by too much fairness. It's a white leprosy. It may be concluded that white or golden hue is the color of the higher caste and black is the complexion of Shudras. Anyways, because black color was there, purpose commenting. Last verse for the day. After Nishad's birth, he immediately took charge of all the resultant actions of King Vena's sinful activities. As such, this Nishad class are always engaged in sinful activities like stealing, plundering, and hunting. Consequently, they are only allowed to live in the hills and forests. So as I said, they are an outcast like that. Prabhupada acts in the puppet. The Nishas are not allowed to live in cities and towns because they are very sinful. I said their bodies are very ugly. Their occupations are also very sinful. We should, however, know that even these sinful men, sometimes were also known as Kirat, Hunam, Pulin, Pulkasha, Yamana. You'll see that verse in second canto. Can be delivered from sinful condition to the topmost Vaishnava platform by the mercy of a pure devotee. That's the point Prabhupada is quoting, and then he quotes famous verse, 9th chapter, 30th verse of Bhagavad Gita. Everyone repeat. Mami pata vipashritya ye pisyu papayo naya striyo vaishyas tata shudras devyanti param gatim. So it doesn't matter whichever papayoni one may be born, but if it takes shelter of me, devyanti param gatim, then they will definitely attain the highest abode of perfection of life. Thus hand the Bhaktivedanta purpose of the 4th canto, 14th chapter, Srimad Bhagavat, entitled The Story of King Vena. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you all for joining in for today's morning discussion. Any comments, any reflections? And I look forward for our Neeraj Prabhu's notes. He makes nice notes as a good reference for me also, because I generally open the book along with all of you in the morning. So some things we discuss on the spot is also good for me to reflect later on, like that. So yes, Mother Preeti Radha, and for those of you here there, I just want to see who all are attending this Bhagavatam classes. If you can for a second switch on your camera, who our audience is, because we've been tracking after a while. So just want to see that. Yeah, Mother, continue with your question.
Am I audible?
Loud and clear. In the meantime, just looking through the cameras who all are there, get to know some.
I just had one question for Bhajan. I don't know. अभी तक मुझे नहीं आया था question, but today we had that discussion. If Draupadi, Prabhupada said that because of her Vama Swabhava, she was thinking like that. But then Yudhishthira also supported. So how do we understand?
Yeah, correct. So in that context, you have to see both the references of Prabhupada, and later on Prabhupada says because Draupadi is a pure devotee. After a few verses, Prabhupada too also shares that. You know, the same context flows is true for Yudhishthira Maharaj. You know, so he by nature, Yudhishthira was less Kshatriya, more Brahmana. So his nature of forgiveness was far greater than anyone else.
So that way, Brahmanas also should be more involved in management, then we can
No,
say like.
Brahmanas are supposed to get involved in management. They are the one who does the whole thing. They work rationally. See, Yudhishthira Maharaj, just like if you have to preach, so an Uttamadhikari has to come down to a Madhyamadhikari stage. What is the quality of a Madhyamadhikari? He discerns who is envious, who is non-envious. Here Yudhishthira Maharaj is not acting at Madhyama stage. He is acting from the platform Uttamadhikari.
In this pastime,
In this particular
is
situation, he is not discerning what Ashwatthama is doing. And same holds true for Draupadi also. But because they are pure devotees of the Lord, but what is the human side of it, which is a lesson for us? Now we are not at Uttamadhikari stage, we are at Kanishta stage. So that comes the human side of us, that there is a natural weakness. And that is getting driven by emotions and bringing too much emotions involved. So therefore, in that context, Prabhupada says, oh, because of the womanly weakness of emotions, Draupadi got. So there, Prabhupada is not commenting for Draupadi. Through Draupadi's life, Prabhupada is giving us a lesson how we should be careful. But why Draupadi acted, Prabhupada clarifies in few purposes later on. Yeah. Draupadi being a pure devotee of the Lord, it was but natural for her to be compassionate. There, then the quality of compassion is mentioned for Uttamadhikari. Because Madhyamadhikari will discern. He will distinguish. So when you have understood the concept of Kanishtadhikari, Madhyamadhikari, Uttamadhikari probably, then you will see who is acting on what situation at that point of time. So they acted on that level. Just like for Arjuna, let's go back to chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada says Arjuna, because of his bodily consciousness, he got bewildered. That's not for Arjuna. That's for us. And the very next verse, Prabhupada writes, Arjuna, this was very natural for Arjuna because being a pure devotee of the Lord, it was
Compassion.
but obvious for him to become compassionate. What pure devotee? That's Uttamadhikari.
Hmm.
Acting at the Uttamadhikari consciousness, this is what your response would be. Why? Let it go. Let it go. Forgive. Forgive. That's a by default response. So for us, what is the middle path for us? How we need to function? We all need to rise up to the level of Madhyamadhikari, so we learn to discern properly.
Yes.
So we become rational, logical, and we have the balance of Shastra and the practical life. At this stage, we can make a proper decision, proper choices. Not as a Kanishta, we will be driven by our own way of conditionings of the emotions. And Uttamadhikari also, for Uttamadhikari, he can't survive in a city setup. For him to be in the city is like walking around the wild animals in the forest. So it won't work for him. So therefore, Prabhupada created the whole culture and the whole system for ISKCON. So everyone who goes to the Shastra study properly, eventually by the mercy of Guru and Gauranga, they will come to the level of Madhyamadhikari because only that is the platform which will bring stability.
Yes. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you. It helps. Hare
So
Krishna.
that's a whole way of their operating it. Okay?
Yes.
Thank you for that question.
Thank you.
Anything else from anyone? Okay, good to see our congregation is coming now. Our FTs are joining the morning classes. Okay, good. You can all take a feedback in your next FT. How's it going? Okay, thank you all for joining in. We pause here. Mother Chintamani, your hand is up. So class is officially over. Those who need to continue with your respective things, you can. Stream close.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. I wanted to know that it is often said that a Uttam Adhikari becomes a Madhyama Adhikari to preach.
Yes.
Now, Uttam Adhikari has that nature. How does he become a Madhyama Adhikari? How does he demote himself to become a Madhyama Adhikari?
That is a question for Uttamadhikari to answer. I have no idea, Mother. Okay? A Kanishta cannot say why and how Uttama Adhikari acts. I can only say what Shastra says. I don't have any Shastric reference immediately how Uttama Adhikari comes down to Madhyama. So at my Kanishta stage, I have no idea. I'll be speculating. Okay, Mother? Jagadru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Thank you all for joining in.